Good morning to you, Mr. Pratt. Good morning to you, Elvis. Good morning to you, Honorable Inusa Fusini.
Good morning.
Elvis.
Good morning, Keo.
Let's go to Burkina Faso.
Yes, there's nothing new to talk about in Burkina Faso. I mean, the Transitional Assembly being sworn in is good news. But first of all, let me say good morning to all of us, particularly you and I. We celebrated our common birthday yesterday. I turned 32 by the grace of God. I don't know what you turned, but I pray the years ahead of us will make us greater than our two fathers with us on the panel. Clearly, the happenings in Burkina Faso has been quite troubling over the periods, and we have discussed on this panel the coup and the many intricacies related to same. And so the major clarion call has been a cry for Burkina Faso to return to a democratic dispensation. No matter how weak democracy might be, it becomes a safe haven, at least for sound livelihood. Life anchored on integrity and dignity is mostly safely guaranteed only under a democratic dispensation. There is no sound sleep under any military regime. And dictatorship, no matter the form it takes, is always a lion. The day it goes hungry, it doesn't matter eating its own cows. And it is on this basis that Burkina Faso and all other troubled countries suffering instability in Africa must have a deliberate revolutionary path towards democracy. And so, if the military junta that took over a few months ago, you remember there was this what I term as an illegal, swearing in of the military junta in a little dark corner of what they call the Constitutional Court of Burkina Faso, which we thought was not legitimate because taking a presidential oath before a constitutional court is not the same as taking a presidential oath before the people of Burkina Faso. And the sovereignty of Burkina Faso emanates from the people, not from the constitutional court. So if we are having a transitional assembly being sworn in, it is my understanding that such transition is to bridle efforts towards going back to democracy. And for me, that is a positive step. Unfortunately, though, each time, and it's becoming quite normative of countries that have experienced military dictatorship, that each time a man in uniform takes up the affairs of a country and forms any transitional team and eventually forms any elections, you end up seeing it that same man in uniform becomes a civilian overnight and takes over presidency, and they never lose such elections. They will always win those kind of elections with very wide margins, in fact, landslide victory. And so it still tells you that it is not enough for us to have a transitional assembly in Burkina Faso, but the question we should be interrogating is what has regional and sub-regional bodies, AU and ECOWAS, done to ensure that the transition to democracy in Burkina Faso is anchored on relevant principles and bridled by appropriate parameters respected by national and international law. That is what we should be considering. What municipal laws are we considering to safeguard the activities of this transition? Because a transition gone bad is worse than any military takeover. And so we can only wish them well and hope that they do what is right. AU and ECOWAS should be interested in this because it amounts to a core objective, foreign policy objective of these regional and sub-regional economic community bodies to be able to ensure that democracy is at play. In the absence of democracy, economic and social interest cannot be pursued. And so they should awake from their slumber and let us see action from the AU, action from the ECOWAS in the case of Burkina Faso. We wish them well. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Honorable.
Well, let me say good morning to you and belated happy birthday. In fact, I didn't hear and didn't know that you were celebrating yesterday, largely because you didn't send me a reminder so that I could come and join you in the party. I was just following you in the house yesterday.
Okay.
It would have been good joining you. And to Elvis, my beloved nephew, good morning and happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Daddy.
My comrade is unapologetically black. Good morning, Comrade Kosi Pratt. Indeed, no person can claim to be intelligent, wise, and knowledgeable enough to rule others without the rules consent. It is important that a government must be founded on the ultimate will of the people. Absolutely. That the freedom and liberty of individuals to choose who to govern them is so inalienable that you cannot supplant that by the use of mechanisms like transitional assemblies and all that. I mean, the military junta cannot appropriate to themselves the right to choose people to represent sectors of the population. The MPs are members of parliament, members of the assembly. MPs must derive their legitimacy from the people. It's like in the Greek city-states, where every individual was of sound mind and of age, of maturity, was qualified to represent himself. But since, like we all know, that we cannot have an assembly or a place we can accommodate all male adults, and now in today's world, female adults, to group and discuss matters affecting their common welfare and good. That is why we have this indirect form of representation where people choose one individual to represent their voice, their concerns, their wishes and aspirations in deliberation. So I see it as being farcical for the government, the military junta in Burkina Faso, to be inaugurating an assembly constituted from mainly by people from academia, political parties, civil society, and others, to constitute themselves into an assembly. An assembly of what? An assembly of what? Are they what do we call? Are they members of parliament? Are they, what are they? You understand? I thought that the military junta, and like we all know in COP and SELFO, I mean, there is a case in which the Ghanaian court said, look, when there's a military dictatorship, the legislative powers of state and the executive powers of state are vested in the same organ. So I thought that the military junta would have worked within themselves on the transitional plan to return Burkina Faso to democratic rule.
Yeah.
And not to be entrenching themselves by now forming what they call an assembly. To an assembly not elected directly by the people, to go look at laws, to go look at policies, to go look at the transition plan, to go, I mean, it's just comical and farcical. The fact is, we should all encourage the government, the military junta of Burkina Faso, to work fast, hard enough to bring the country back onto the rules of engagement in civilized democratic countries. That people must have the power to choose who they want to represent them, to choose who they want to govern them. You can't allow anybody to govern you without your consent. I mean, it is simply reducing you to a spectator because you didn't take part in electing them. You didn't take part in ensuring that their legitimacy, derives from you. You only had to accept a de facto de jure situation, and that clearly kills motivation, kills the interest of people in their country. How can you hold the military junta to the fire of accountability if they misappropriate the resources of the state? How can you do that? You can't. There will be no mechanisms to do that. And so, yes, they say that they are working towards the restoration of the country to democratic rule. We must encourage them, but I don't think that what they have done is in any way a move towards democratic consolidation in Burkina Faso.
Yeah, it appears that's what is happening in the countries, where we had the coup. Because I think in Guinea as well, they decided to put together this reconciliation commission or something like committee or something like that.
The coup in Guinea, even though an insurrection, even though a usurpation of power, it was accepted worldwide by even democratic states, because the Alpha Conde had simply closed the doors to political engagement, had simply not promoted inclusiveness in his government, has simply made it impossible for people who had opposing views to air their views, tempered with the constitution that got him into power in the first place. Now, in Burkina Faso, the reason why according to them, the reason why they overthrew the elected government of Burkina Faso was that the elected government was not doing enough to ensure the security of the state. And that the jihadis and the insurgents who were operating along the periphery of Burkina Faso almost had a field day. But I thought that it is the army's responsibility to protect the borders of the state, to ensure the safety, security of the state, to ensure the territorial integrity of the state. And so if the Chief of Defense Staff was not initiating policy strategy that could empower the Burkina Faso military to defend the country against these Islamic militants, that was a failing of the Chief of Staff. That was a failing of the army. The army, and not the failing of the president. The president cannot claim to be all knowledgeable on matters of state. It is the advice that he receives from his advisors and from people he has put in office that will help him rule the country. And so, for me, that claim by Burkina Faso was neither here nor there. It's quite remarkably different. And that is why Guinea, as we speak today, has gone low, has gone down. I mean, nobody's talking about Guinea, because there is a de facto recognition that what he did was better of the two evils.
Yeah, but anyway, the purpose has been served. One would have thought that the next step should be a transitional team put together to ensure that power is transferred to a civilian.
I believe that he will do that, but I also have a fear that he might transition to a military ruler.
That is what I'm saying.
A civilian ruler.
That was exactly what
Yeah.
I said.
Which is why, there are questions about the purpose of the reconciliation.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Pratt, respectfully.
West Africa is in a much more complex situation. And we need to look at Burkina Faso, Guinea, Mali, and all of West Africa within that complexity. Last night, I was trying to catch up on developments in Burkina Faso. And I took a very simple political map of Burkina Faso. And to my surprise, the capital, Ouagadougou, is almost completely surrounded by Islamic insurgents. about 70% of the land of Burkina Faso is in the hands of Islamic insurgents. This is not the time to be talking about restoration of democracy. What does that mean? Is Burkina Faso today in a position even to organize elections? It is not. When 70% of the country is in the hands of Islamic insurgents, how do you organize elections? Why are you going to organize those elections? So that is a reality. I mean, the havoc that these Islamic insurgents are causing in West Africa, especially in northern West Africa, is something that we have to consider very, very seriously. Now, the coup in Burkina Faso, one of the reasons for the coup in Burkina Faso was the fact that the Burkinabe army was completely under-resourced. The soldiers were dying in battles. They didn't have even food to eat as they engaged the Islamic insurgents. The ammunition was running down and so on. They were just running over the country. So largely, the coup in Burkina Faso was occasioned by the need to revamp the army, to mobilize the country in order to defeat Islamic insurgents. Now, for those of us in Ghana, we should be very careful when we are doing this analysis. Because our own intelligence reports suggest that the Islamic insurgents have not just surrounded Ouagadougou, but they've actually descended south. And some of them have come as far as Tamale and below Tamale. These are own intelligence reports. So if this is our situation, what is our priority as Ghanaian people? This whole thing of imposing sanctions on Burkina Faso and Mali and so on is so childish, it's unbelievable. I mean, listen. This is the time when all of us should be sitting down together, developing a common strategy to preserve security in West Africa. This is not the time to be talking about reinstatement of heads of states who were total failures and who themselves had no democratic credentials and so on. Indeed, one of the things which has come up in the examination of the situation in West Africa and so on is the complete failure of France to offer any assistance, any meaningful assistance in the protection of West Africa from the ravages of Islamic insurgency. And that is why people in Mali, in Burkina Faso and so on are jubilating when the French soldiers were asked to leave. They were most incompetent. They were incapable of addressing the situation. Indeed, they didn't go there in the first place to go and fight any Islamic insurgents. They went there to entrench neo-colonial control of those countries and so on. So that's how I'm looking at the situation. And I've read the newspaper reports on the formation of this assembly. And it is obvious from what the newly elected leader of the assembly is saying and so on, that their priority is not even to draft a constitution. He's saying that their foremost priority is peace. What does that tell you? This is the kind of situation we are confronted with. 2 weeks ago, there were reports of the Islamic insurgents attacking Benin, the northern border of Benin. You understand? How far is Benin from Accra, from Ghana? So all of us are at risk. If you take Nigeria, the most populous nation in West Africa, Nigeria has a population of about 230 million. It has the largest economy and so on. If you take Nigeria is not even able to withhold, to hold its own in the face of this Boko Haram aggression. And Nigeria is not just facing the Boko Haram aggression. Nigeria also faces a low-intensity civil war in the Niger Delta. Nigeria has a huge problem with the secessionist movement in the east, Biafra, and so on. You understand? So the whole of West Africa could come crashing down. The whole of West Africa could come crashing down. Look at the economic situation in the sub-region. Which of the countries in the sub-region is able to stand on its own? All of them have been hit by hyperinflation. All of them are generating revenues which are inadequate to meet national needs. All of them have problems with the debt overhang. All the countries in the region have problems with the debt overhang and so on. I think it's time for us to begin to think outside the box. You understand? To begin to think outside the parameters set for us by Western institutions and so on, so that we can get to the nitty-gritty of the problems in West Africa and begin to solve them. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the most important problems in West Africa today is security. You understand? Again, we cannot run away from the fact that the problems in West Africa are a direct result of imperialist interventionism in Africa. The attack on Libya, the overthrow of Gaddafi and so on, freed all kinds of sophisticated weapons and so on, which are now in the hands of the Islamic insurgents. You understand? The sweep towards the south, towards the Atlantic and so on, has been emboldened and so on by the destruction of Libya. So let's think. The same Western countries which have caused the problems for us are telling us that we should write constitutions and elect presidents. Write constitutions and elect presidents. How does that solve the problem of the Islamic insurgency? Let us think.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. If you just joined us, we're watching the newspaper review segment here on Pan-African Television. We just dealt with the issue in Burkina Faso, where the Transitional Assembly has been sworn in. Now, let's come back home and discuss our own matters here. Ufurata speaks today on borders, fuel prices, and COVID. Honorable Nuzabzeni.
Well, Ufurata, the Minister of Finance.
Yes, please.
Matamidu says is the SIDO president. I thought that the situation in which we are calls for the president to address the nation and not the Minister of Finance. I mean, the mandate to rule this country is squarely within the powers of the president. Article 58 makes it very clear that the executive authority of state is vested in the president. And so I was hoping that after their after their Pediasu meeting, the president would have found time, energy, and need to address us, to tell us exactly what they have discussed. I mean, even if he was not going to tell us the fine details, but at least to give us an understanding of the things that they have agreed to, and to tell us that he's directed the finance minister to come out with the details. But when I read Kojo upon Nkrumah's statement, consequent upon the 3-day meeting at Pediasi, I had cause to comment on it. I said that it was fine English, captured in so many words, signifying nothing, absolutely nothing. Because you see, the country was waiting with bated breath to hear from the meeting. I mean, many things started flying as to what could come out of the meeting. And so there was a need. I don't know who the advisors of the president are, but there was a need immediately after the meeting for the president to calmness, to say, look, I appreciate the difficulties this country is going through. Today, like I said last week, every day you are coming to town, you are looking at your fuel gauge because, and you're wondering why all of a sudden the fuel appears to be going faster than before. Is it because the prices have gone up, so the fuel is now conspiring with fuel producers and suppliers to rip us off our meager resources? You're worried that food prices are increasing, and the Minister of Agriculture is saying that, well, the data is wrong. His own ministry's data is wrong, and his understanding of what is happening is that there is food in abundance in this country. and that a temporary increase in prices doesn't mean anything. You're worried that we are having to import even cassava from China. You're worried. You understand? You are worried that the cedi is now falling like dry leaves in the harmattan, and is the second worst performing currency in Africa according to Bloomberg. And so you're worried. I mean, people's investment, people's savings are being wiped off just because we are unable to maintain the stability of the city. I mean, yesterday, those who went, or last week, those who went to buy goods, imported goods from abroad, can no longer use the same amount of money to buy those goods. And moreover, when they come into the country, because of the general poverty in the situation, people don't patronize what they have imported. And so there's a difficulty. There's a difficulty. But, well, be it as it may, Oforeta is going to address us today. And we'll be waiting to see what he tells us. But there are many things. I mean, initially, everybody was thinking that, well, the situation is so bad that probably the government should do what the NDC, what Kufuor, what late John Rawlings did. Convey a national dialogue, economic dialogue, so that the views of people could be views of people who are speaking and who are not part of government could also inform decisions on how to restore the stability in the economy. I mean, when Rawlings did it the first time, it was a novelty. I mean, but Kufuor, when he came, also thought that, well, the city's performance and the economic performance was such that he needed to convene a national economic dialogue. He did that. And that gave him an opportunity to go declare HIPIC, and then to see how we could, using the opportunities HIPIC offered this country, to stabilize our economy. The John Mahama in 2014, when the situation was very bad, and then the city was not stabilizing well, and the fall in the exchange rates were such that it was a matter of concern for businesses. People started speaking, and in fact, I've left the Senchi Consensus in my car. I've been reading it, and he thought, no, insofar as I'm engaging with industry, insofar as I'm engaging with businessmen on a private level, we need to convene a meeting to be able to see how we can factor in, we can talk about the way, the trajectory to bring the economy back on track. Because what unites all of us is our desire to see this country progress. In the Nana Akufo-Addo's government thinks that they know it all, and nobody can direct them as to what to do. And so they went a normal cabinet meeting. A cabinet retreat is normally for government to bring all his ministers on board to see whether or not they are on track or they are not on track. And they say they use that opportunity to also appraise the hardship and difficulties in the economy. Well, we'll wait to see what he says, but there are many things that we had said were wrong. But because this government is an all-knowing government, and they refuse to listen. When we said that, look, you see, Nkrumah is credited for introducing free education in some parts of this country. Yes, so free education is not new, except that it was targeted. Why was it targeted? Because a government has a responsibility to bring up those who are disadvantaged by colonial policies. In fact, Nkrumah's government had the responsibility to bring up those who were disadvantaged by colonial policies up a par with those, or near parity with those who had benefited from colonial policy. And in his assessment, the northern part and parts of Brown Half region and Volta region had not benefited enough from colonial policies, and so they were lagging behind. And so he thought, yes, one way, and education is a great leveler. So one way to do that was to get them free education up to the point that they could stand on their own. So when Nana Akufo-Addo brought in, we said, okay, fine. I mean, they justify their free education on the basis of the fact that all of us pay taxes, so all of us must enjoy. The Minister of Finance himself disagreed with his government. When he said that, I mean, he is sufficiently endowed, he has got resources to look after his children, why would government take up that responsibility? He was lambasted by the present head of MPA, what's his name? Mustafa Hamid. Said that he didn't know what he was talking about. Now, so that policy, and when John Mahama said, oh, we will review that policy, they equated review to cancellation. And Nana Akufo-Addo is on the social media saying that we will continue with free education, Tim. I mean, and today the reality has caught up with him. You're reviewing debt, you're reviewing China, we are good. It's caught up with him. Now, one village, one dam. Today, we are in the dry season. And even nothing at all, we were thinking that the one village, one dam was to guarantee the availability of water to promote dry season gardening. Today, if you go to the one village, one dam, you're not going to find water. The Minister for Special Initiatives, Howard Kumson, said that, oh, we got the dams that we wanted because we didn't provide enough resources. So the resources we provided could only construct those dams. The minister said that. And so the minister acknowledged that the dams could not hold water because we didn't put more resources into it. And so we are suffering. I mean, one district, one factory. I mean, yes, Nkrumah's industrialization, northern rice mills, northern oil mills. Just behind us, Buffer Food Distribution Company, Grains Development Company, you had it spread all over the place. They were targeted. But we said no. We will do one and went and painted companies that existed even before the children of Nana Akufo-Addo were born and constituted them into one district, one factory. Indiscriminate, tax waivers. I mean, indiscriminate tax waivers. Tax waivers are taxes are revenue, potential revenue to the state. We decided, even a struggling country like ours, we decided to waive those taxes, including the taxes on the hotel, a luxury hotel to be built in the airport enclave. So we ourselves are responsible for what is happening to us. The rise in fuel prices is not as a result of a war in Ukraine. It's because our city is not stable. Our city is falling. So you need more cities. I mean, investors are running away because we can no longer go to the money market to borrow. So they think that the situation will get worse. So they are exiting. And when they are exiting, you need more resources. You need dollars. And we don't have enough. So demand and supply. So our city falls. Our city falls. You are going to pump $2 billion into the economy. And time has told you that no matter these artificial injections of foreign exchange, the city cannot stabilize. You need, why should we be importing cassava? Anytime you import cassava or rice or any foodstuff that we produce in Ghana, you are exporting jobs. True. You are exporting jobs. And because you are exporting jobs, your city will suffer because you are the dollars that you have used to to put in your accounts as buffer for imports of critical items are the dollars that you are using to bring distance. And so there's a mad rush for dollars, and so your city falls. I think that the government needs to change direction. Planting for food and jobs has been a total failure, even though the minister doesn't want us to say that. Today, last year we were buying 50 kilo of fertilizer in the northern region at between 200 Ghana cedis to 250 Ghana cedis. Today, as I speak, it's 400, 450. If you're not a peasant farmer, you're a commercial farmer, you are not entitled to buy you don't have the right to buy the government subsidized fertilizer because it's for peasant farmers. I don't know, a commercial farmer, if you are able to purchase fertilizer at 450 and produce, how much you're going to sell your produce. And so it's a sham. The government must change direction, and we will want to see what is a change in direction, which will be captured in the Minister of Finance's statement today, his address to the nation.
Thank you. Elvis.
I think that basically, yes, government had the opportunity with cabinet to engage in the quarterly review session of cabinet, and of course the economic management team in Peduase over the last weekend and the early days of this week. And central to government's deliberations was, first of all, an acknowledgement of the practical reality of economic difficulty we suffer in the country at the moment. It goes without saying that clearly one cannot, in all of these realities, discount the impact of global economic difficulties on our domestic economy. The international political economic structure is in such a way that no country exists in isolation. The primary step to a positive solution to the Ghanaian economic problem is to admit at all fronts the sources of the difficulties. First, those from the international front. Second, those emanating from the direct mismanagement and lack of leadership in economic affairs in this country. Unfortunately, you have a situation where we are so intelligent in opposition. Who else have noticed that level of mediocrity in the Ghanaian system? We just start clapping for our leaders when they have said nothing at all. The man is introduced and we just start clapping. He hasn't spoken, he said nothing, and we are clapping. KOD, what have we been clapping for as a nation? We have clapped from Nkrumah till date and we are still clapping. We clapped under Rawlings, clapped under Kufuor, clapped under late Professor Mills. We even clapped under JN. And clapping again under Nana. It is the height of mediocrity. And in all of this, it is in opposition we are intelligent. Every opposition party is an intelligent think tank with diagnostic ability and proffers of solutions to the economic difficulties of this country. We spoke and came to power. Today, the NDC, they are speaking. My uncle, Honorable Minister Hussein, they just spoke. Look, the situation requires nothing but leadership. It does not require MPP or NDC. The Ghanaian economic difficulty is one that requires genuine leadership. Governments have admitted difficulties, and the finance minister is going to talk about what intervention government is going to put in place. Some of which we are aware of already. The injection of $2 billion through the central bank into the money market, into the liquid space of the country. Yes, we have found ourselves in between the rock and the hard place. You are then limited to an immediate solution, whilst you look forward to a sustainable one. The question is, all the long-term sustainable measures cannot be piloted now. Why? Because we have failed over the years to set the right economic footing for that. So we live in an economy where we practice a recycle of wrongs. Get me clear. A recycle of what? Of wrongs. The NDC is talking today that the injection of $2 billion means nothing. We'll get back to the same old story. And 1D, 1F didn't work, and then one village, one dam didn't actually work, Yes, I'm disappointed, especially in the particular case of One Village, One Dump. I don't see why MPP should have failed in One Village, One Dump, but we have failed. We could do better for One Village, One Dump. I still do not understand why we have failed in One Village, One Dump. But the practical reality is the NDC and all the talking they are doing, in all of this, what is their alternative suggestion? We have not heard that one too. So the cycle of wrong repetition is what we are still peddling in. Look, nobody can just pretend that COVID and global affairs, including the Russian-Ukrainian issues, do not have a toll on the economy. They do. The problem we have is the lack of political will to agree that what one party have started is good and worthy of continuation. And when you have practiced so much mischief around each other, you can no more trust each other. And history is always there to guide us. KOD, a topical issue that is cited in today's discussion on some of the instances the president have either not listened or have not done justice to suggestion. It's free SHS and its review. I don't see why as a nation we should be debating over review. Who says review necessarily must be negative? It could be positive. But why do we in the NPP condemn outrightly JM's position and suggestion of a review of free SHS should he win the 2020 election, as it were? It is because of the experience we have had from the NDC. Because one, from the outset, the NDC had been against the free SHS. Without coming out with any particular policy direction they think was going to be a major bottleneck should we not adhere to their advice. And you know what? So having criticized this right from 2008, they've been against free SHS 100%. If you are now promising a review of free SHS, what do you expect on the basis of simple logic, our analysis and understanding of that kind of a review? Within that context, your review is understood to mean a cancellation of free SHS. And you know what further buttresses that particular notion and makes it correct? KOD. Remember the switch, the politicization of the SHS duration. 3 years, 4 year system. Somewhere, in the Eastwell Kufuor administration, where it was changed to 4 years. When the NDC argued that they will review it, what review did we see? Under Honorable, I think Alex Tetenyo was the education minister then. Their review of the 4 year duration of free SHS was a reversal to the 3 years. Since when have review and reversal mean the same? So after these bitter experiences, who will take you serious that your review of free SHS does not amount to a review? It does. So in the current context of streamlining things economically, things and sectors such as free SHS will see a review. But Ghanaians, I can assure, should expect a very positive review in the particular case of free SHS. And the injection of the $2 billion, at least to keep a barrier on the cedi and its depreciation, is apt. It is the most formidable way at the moment. But what government must also understand is that we came into power on the heels of more deeper economic postulations beyond the mere injection of dollars into the fiscal space. So then I would expect that my minister, our minister, as we speak today, we should also not forget to include measures beyond just the injection of the $2 billion into the fiscal space. But clearly, until we go back to production-based economy, and look, I have always insisted that, broadly speaking, it is not just about production. It is also about substitution. You know why? Because a lot of the things, a lot of the complications we have, especially with the cedi, is as a result of the negative net import we have, net export we have. Negative net export. Because we practically import everything in this country, including those we already have. There are a lot of things we import that we do not need production to substitute them. The meat industry is one. I mean, we don't need to import 1.4 trillion worth of chicken in this economy. Rice, the same. If we stop the importation of rice today and stop the importation of chicken and pork and even beef, trust me, we do not need any production to still feed on meat. We already have that. It will rather, stopping that will rather automatically open the market. That will boom the supply from our local producers to meet the inherent demand of the market. So it is rather lack of political will by all governments. Lack of political will by all governments over the period. And so, KOD, these are the issues. We look forward to having the Honorable Minister speak, and I'm confident that he's going to make some sense. I'm confident that that intermediate measure is going to cushion up a little. I am confident that even fuel prices will be stabilized in a way. However, it may not just be too sustainable. In the long term, government must run a consultancy, an in-house think tank that do not only speak economic rhetorics but has the ability to transform such rhetorics into reality. It is the only way we can survive in this country. Life is unbearable for the youth. It is a national security threat. You get up and you cannot buy kenke. You get up and you cannot feed. The youth are getting, Ghanaian youth are getting frustrated. NDC youth, MPP youth, those on the fence without belonging to any particular political party are all getting frustrated. Parents are getting frustrated. Employers are getting frustrated. And employees, look, under the current circumstances, KOD, do you know that the vast majority of our workers, both in public and private sector, can no longer afford transportation because their salary is not enough. Some spend as much as 80 Ghana cedis a day on transportation in and out work. And your salary is just 1,800 Ghana cedis. Do the computation. And you realize that workers in Ghana don't have salary. What we now give them is transportation to go to work. So I think that we should be more nationalistic about this. Look, the talking is too much. Senchi was a talk shop. All these ones happening are practical talk shops.
It is precisely what you are doing.
So
when you say that we should focus on production-driven economy.
No.
Who is supposed to do that?
No, I have made my point clear.
No, that's what you said.
Government's failure. I have made my point clear of government's failure to translate economic rhetorics into reality. So I have not dodged the blame.
Which government? Your government, right?
Every government is culpable of this in this country. What has the NDC done? So the NDC is as guilty as the MPP. But the MPP is more blamable. Why? Because we came to government on the heels of correcting the wrongs. And that is why I place the blame there.
Okay.
Admitting the situation in all humility and appreciating the intervention of the president.
Thank you. Comprehensible. Mr. Pratt, please.
Well, now there's no dispute at all. That the economy is in the doldrums. Everybody admits that. A couple of months ago, people said that the Ghanaian economy was collapsing. All manner of insults would have been held at you. Now you have a situation where the President of the Republic himself is admitting that the economy is in the doldrums. I have a situation in which the Ministry of Finance admits that the economy is in deep crisis. That's an interesting beginning. Now we are told that over the weekend, ministers and other appointees of government met at Pidriasi and they've decided on a way out for the Ghanaian economy. And that today at 1 p.m., the Minister of Finance would announce the measures aimed at cushioning us from the ravages of a collapsing economy. Fair enough. We still do not know what he's going to tell us. There's been some speculation and so on. I am willing to wait. But there are some questions that we can ask now. Now, if they had solutions to the problem, how come that they waited for the economy to collapse before trying to apply the solutions that they've had? Because one would have thought that if they had answers to the problems, they would have applied them in order to prevent the economy from collapsing. Now they've sat down, the economy has collapsed before all of us, and they say, oh, we have solutions, we are coming with the solutions. Fair enough, we'll wait and listen. One of the things that we were also told was that after their meeting, there was going to be a delay in announcing the measures because the Minister of Finance and government were going to do some consultations. Oh my goodness. I was so shocked yesterday when I listened to an interview granted by the president of the Ghana Association of Industries, and he was asked directly whether they had been consulted. He said, no. He said, they haven't been consulted. Now, if the Ghana Association of Industries has not been consulted, who then has been consulted? We will get to know all of this by the close of the day. Now, this morning I'm reading the Daily Graphic. The Daily Graphic has a front page screaming banner headline. Says measures to restore economy to pre-COVID era. Ofurata unveils key policies today. Now, my first problem is that this is an assumption that before the outbreak of COVID-19, the economy was doing well. That is false. Completely false. Because even before the outbreak of COVID-19, this economy was still tottering. Now, only last week, the resident representative of the World Bank actually said very clearly that this thing about pre-COVID and so on is nonsensical, and that before COVID, the economy was tottering. So if you start on this basis, how can we have hope? If you start on the basis that before COVID everything was fine, how can we have hope? Now we are being told that part of our problems are directly the result of the Russian-Ukraine conflict. And you see, I think that our politicians should show a little respect for the population. Just a little respect for the population. Listen, what has happened? This conflict pushed petroleum prices up to, I think, $145 per barrel. Now they are down to about $120 per barrel and so on. Now, when they say that the conflict has pushed petroleum prices up to $145 per barrel, what are they actually saying? What they are describing are spot prices, otherwise also referred to as indicative prices. Nobody buys oil at spot prices. The whole world, nobody buys oil at spot prices. Nobody buys oil at indicative prices. So they should come and tell us that today Ghana is buying crude at $120 per barrel. It's not true. We negotiate the prices ahead of time. Honorable, you know that. We negotiate the price ahead of time. Some of them we hedge prices and so on. You understand? So spot prices are not the prices at which we buy petrol. They should stop deceiving gullible, innocent people. We don't buy at indicative prices. Now, if you look at the way we quote our prices in Ghana, we use a term which is called ex-Rotterdam. Ex-Rotterdam. Ex-Rotterdam is an assumed price. Ex-Rotterdam is to say that when petrol is refined at the major refineries in Rotterdam, this is how much it will cost per barrel. That's what it says. Are we buying our refined petrol from Rotterdam, from the refineries in Rotterdam? And then you see, petrol, ignorance is such a killer. Listen, petrol is like cars, vehicles. You understand? So if you go on the market and you want to buy a car, you can offer a Mercedes-Benz, you can offer a BMW, you can offer a VW, and you can offer a Toyota Yaris. They are all cars, but they all don't cost the same. Yeah. So if you go on the market and you want to buy crude oil, you have Brent crude, you have Para, you have different categories of crude. So when we are quoting world oil price and so on, are we quoting the Brent price, or we are quoting the price for Para, or we are quoting the price for what? What are we buying? Are we buying Brent? Brent is supposed to be the most expensive. Are we buying Brent? Are we buying Quara? What are we buying? So all these are a pack of lies. Deliberate lies that we are being fed. As I've said, I'm willing to wait. I've read the statements which are attributed to a source close to finance ministry and so on. And if I want to do an analysis, perhaps I'll spoil what Ken Operata is coming to say even before he has said them. Yes, this is just a pack of lies. Pack of lies. You understand? If this is what the minister is going to do, then we should forget it. Who says that if we pump $2 billion into the Ghanaian economy will stabilize? Do you know the hole in the economy? Let us wait for the minister.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. Let me read a few of your messages on Facebook. Habib Abdullah says, good morning to you, Pan-African Television and all your beautiful panelists. My message to the NPP gentleman, his name is Elvis, is that it's high time they stop pointing fingers at NDC, but rather they should focus, they should be bold and tell Ghanaians how bad they have performed. Musa Abatwa Kumase, when we called on President Akufo-Addo to cut down the waste by reducing bloated sides of his government, we were told by the hypocrites that the end justifies the means. Now the same people are asking him to reduce his size of government. Where in the world do we have 104 ministers and 989 presidential staffers working as government machinery? God being so good, those hypocrites are waking up from their slumber. Greetings to lawyer Evans Amankwa. NDC MPs should not cut any penny from their salaries. Okay. This one also says, Tijani Amingo says, so who is in power now? Who is in power now? Elvis, stop the double game and say it as it is. Ibrahim Washara says, what is review? These are a few messages. I'm sure there are a number of them, but let me just move on to the next topic. And then I'll try and read the messages as they come in. Ghana now imports cassava from China. Let's box that together with Baumia's comment on economy while in opposition, hunting him, Solomon Usu. Elvis. So let's start with the cassava issue first, and then we.
It's unfortunate. It's actually stupid. For it's actually stupid for Ghana. I don't know. We have a problem as a nation and as a continent. I mean, and the problem is lack of sense. We cannot be blaming imperial powers for all our woes. There are economies that have suffered the dangers of imperialism, and today have developed philosophies that have made them more better economically than the colonial masters. Some of whom actually copied the blueprints and the foundations of their works from Ghana and Africa. So what's the point? What's the point? What the imperialists did and keep doing is a manifestation of their pursuit of their personal national interest. When will our own leaders also realize that there is a personal and national interest we must also pursue as a people? So who should be surprised? KOD.
Yes, my boss.
It is not only cassava. Ghana actually now imports kente from China.
Oh, you're lying.
Ghana imports kente from China, I'm telling you.
Bolivia kente.
Yes, from China.
Hey, I see.
Cocoa is now being grown in China. And you need to appreciate the technology that is applied in China's, attempt to grow cocoa. Ghana cocoa is now grown in China. In some cases, in pavilion gardens. It tells you what that means for us. They keep our gold for us. They now grow our cocoa. What do you think they will do to us? They will want that, agronomical dominance in the cocoa sector. Okay? And to do so, their science and their research is invested in chemicals that will be so cheap for Africa to use. That will, one, reduce the quality of our cocoa, and eventually its genetic, remodeling will not be fit for purpose for what they term international standards in the manufacturing industry. This is the direction they are leading us to. So when that happens, you will be taken off the scene and their cocoa will dominate, because we have refused to think into the sciences. We have refused to think into the political ecology required, to move and bridle the agricultural sector properly. We are just made to believe that climate change is our problem. It is not the case. It is also our practices. Have you forgotten that Burkina Faso, which is supposed to be a desert and semi-arid Sahel, we actually, the tomato we eat and the onions are from Burkina Faso. That is importation. There is nothing Ghanaian that is not found in the markets in China. I'm surprised. You are surprised kente is imported now from China. So if cassava is imported from China, is it news? Chinese now prepare fried granuts, and these peanuts we buy to eat. We now have those made and imported from China. Kuli kuli is also packaged nicely from China and brought back to us to buy.
The one that I struck is the what's it called? The one we used to grind pepper. Apotoyoa.
Yes. Yeah, apotoyoa is also being now imported from China.
$400.
And you buy it at $400. Go to Marina Mall, you will find them there. Master. So if we buy pots, apotoyoa, how do you call it? Kente, granuts, kuli from China, and we actually like the China brand. There is this toffee, better than all these candies you have in the supermarket. Is it? Our Ewe brothers produce it. There's this local toffee. It has a name. That toffee is far better than all these candies we go about buying. Today, the Chinese people are able to produce that toffee for us.
Alewa. That's not alewa.
That's not alewa. It's
You know what made out of coconut?
coconut, yes.
Yeah, I know that one.
It's Igbe toffee. I'm talking about Igbe toffee. Do you know the Chinese now produce it? And we buy it. Go to ShopRite, you will find some there.
Igbe toffee.
Igbe toffee is not produced by China. So, Kyobi, what are we talking? But our leaders still go there with a cup in hand to speak all the grammar and to praise them in the finest grammatical terms. Is it not stupidity?
Well, thank you, Elvis. Let me leave you here.
No. Or you give me chance to talk on that.
Yes. So let me capture Honorable Minister of Cleaning on this subject matter, please.
Well, you see, actions have consequences. Choices have consequences as well. And I think that sitting here, to be remiss on my part not to respond to part of the allegations of Elvis. As a former cabinet member of John Dramani Mahama's government, John Mahama was left in no doubt that the stabilization of the city has short, medium, and long-term strategies. As a long-term strategy, we should be able to anchor the stability of the city on what we call the production of goods and services that are inherently local. So this dress that you are wearing, made in Ghana,
yes, Kwekwe Outlook.
This Kwekwe Outlook, made in Ghana, that it should be possible for us to produce our own clothes and wear them. And that we should encourage the textiles industry. You remember while John Dramani Mahama was president, he had opportunity to visit a local shoe manufacturer.
No, it's
in Accra here.
I've forgotten.
And even bought one of his shoes. And he wore the shoe the day he was addressing the nation, Asuna. Now, he demonstrated to us as a government that the best way to stabilize the economy was to invest heavily in agric, heavily in infrastructure, and heavily in health. That these three core areas should be able to anchor the economy. Because a healthy people is a productive people. When people are sick, they must be able to go to hospital. That's why we built that number of cheap compounds and that number of hospitals. Not because we are interested in building hospital and clinics. We believe that the health of the people was the wealth of the nation. Now, let me tell you, as a government, we believed in agric. So your planting and food for food and jobs was anchored on a facility that we brought from Canada. And then we said we're going to do mechanization farms, mechanization areas, where we could give up to 5 tractors to an area to provide mechanization services for farmers in those areas, for peasant farmers. And fertilizer, because we realized that fertilizer was smuggled out of the country, we said, look, we must tie the supply of fertilizer to direct farmers groups. You don't need middlemen. So you must be able to track. If you say fertilizer is going to the upper west region, who is it going to? Not middlemen buying the fertilizer and supplying farmers. It must go to the farmers groups. That's 2 things for you. In the main season, you release. So inflation associated with food prices is controlled. And then you also provide a market for the farmers, because they are going to sell, so you know where to sell to. And 3, you make it possible when you sell at higher prices, you can recoup some of the subsidies you gave to farmers. It was not just given free money going. You needed to recoup the money to be able to continue to. You needed to put it on a sustainable basis. You understand? But the plan of John Dramani Mahama was truncated with the lies that were peddled. If you say, I give you example, you are from The time that Afrancho, you know Afrancho? Tomato was in abundance in Afrancho. Meanwhile, the people of Wa could not get tomatoes. Why? The road from Sunyani through Boale, Bamboy to Wa was too terrible. So vehicle owners do not want to get. You poo-pooed all those things. You asked us whether we were eating roads. So yes, it's true. I agree with you entirely. That governments must understand. And that's why we need to empower the National Development Commission to make it mandatory for governments to continue with programs. Because you see, the NPP did not understand what John Mahama was doing. It was built by John Mahama and commissioned by John Mahama. John Dramani Mahama. Yes. You know, so why? Because I tell you, one day we were talking about corruption. And I was seated and I was having a private discussion with the president. And he said, Inusa, this corruption, we're doing our best to stop it. But you know how to stop it easily? Digitize our money. Make it cashless.
You don't touch money. You run, I don't touch
So what happens is when you get to the barrier or when you get to an office and they want to, the officer wants bribe, you tell him to bring his point of sale device. Because you don't carry money, you are carrying they bring your point of sale device. I say all those who are receiving bribes will run away because they know point of sale device. It can be tracked. And moreover, you are carrying cash, so you can't give any under table money. So it was not this. What you are doing now is not something that is from space. You see. So this government was talking. The talking was not consistent with what they were doing. They were actually interested in their own benefit. Today I tell you, there are questions hanging over the last chief farmer. Natural best farmer. There are questions. I'm not the one to tell you about those questions, but there are questions. I'm leaving the questions. So you are doing everything for your own benefit. You say you are encouraging seed production. When the farmers produce the seeds, they have to go and look for the market. Why won't China take the lead? When farmers produce cassava, there is no connection of the markets. You don't block importation of cassava so that the cassava that your farmers produce here are bought. You don't. Everywhere, I've not seen a country in the world where, except countries which are poor and cannot produce, which imports its foodstuff. There's no food security. This country, and I'm putting my finger on the table, can produce its own rice and feed its own people. People are investing in rice mills all over the place. Tell me, what is the policy of government towards that? Government has already gone to benchmark import duties, making imported rice cheaper than local rice. Why wouldn't your CD4? Why wouldn't the CD4? So there is no coherence in policy. That is why we are importing everything. There are even more other things that we are importing. Commercial eggs, we import them. The eggs that we eat, you don't know that we import them.
If you import
we're importing everything. Meanwhile, this country has the capacity to support the production of many of the things that we. Too many years ago, the man who is dead, they grow what you eat, what you grow, and grow what you eat. Domestication. Dan Latte told us that the way to put this country on the sound keel is to domesticate whatever we produce here. Domestication was yourself. Domesticate everything. Make everything local first before foreign. But we have reversed it. Even our president, when he's going to address the UN, he wears a suit and tie with a handkerchief in his distance. We have domesticated everything. Everything. So, and that is the consequences. Anytime that you see us wear the Gucci, wear the flashy fashion dresses, we are using dollars, not cedis, to buy them. And that has an impact on the economy.
Let me remind viewers that this Saturday, the Obasima Summit team will be in Tamale UDS campus. So make sure you join the train, make sure you join them. All the Pan-African presenters are going to be there. You'll see everybody. So make sure you join the team. I think it starts at 12 midday. Join Ama Pratt and the team in Tamale UDS campus. Mr. Pratt, please.
I don't think that there's a lot to add. I mean, all we are discussing are manifestations of the same economic malice. What are we not importing? Toothpicks. What are we not importing? It's the same economic malice. There's nothing much. We are importing kontomire.
Kontomire.
We are importing cassava. We are importing guinea fowls.
I was told that yesterday.
We are importing guinea fowls from Denmark.
We import guinea fowls from Denmark.
Something I don't believe. I don't believe.
Ghana imports guinea fowls from Denmark.
There isn't much to say. I think that we've said enough for today. Now let's wait for Ken Oforiatta, and then after Ken Oforiatta, we'll be able to discuss, the magic measures that they intend to introduce in order to alleviate the suffering, of the Ghanaian people. Perhaps the only thing to mention is this MPP communicator, Solomon Owusu, who is saying that Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia has become the main problem of his party. And that given the way he has spoken in the past, it's become very, very difficult to defend the government. Is that not the truth? That's the truth. What am I going to add or take away? You understand? This morning, but the problem is that he makes it look like it's only the vice president. It's not only the vice president. This morning, as I was driving to the studio, I was listening to a tape recording of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo at a rally during the December 2020 elections, and I was shocked. The president was saying that, who says that we are going to review the senior high school, free senior high school? We will not review it today, we will not review it tomorrow, and we are going to all kinds of things. And the president actually said that to review it is to abandon it. So, these statements, they've caught up with all of us, and the consequences are clear. What do I have to say? Nothing.
Nothing. Thank you, Mr. Pratt. Thank you, Honorable Inos Afuseni. Thank you, Elvis Mota, for your time this morning. Let me say a big thank you to everyone who tuned in this morning. My name is Kwame Usoda. So it's been a pleasure serving you here on the show. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.